All right, boys and girls, it's time to go on our reading adventure today. Today, we're adding into our suitcase predict what might happen next. And you guys have already done a lot of work with making predictions before reading and during reading. Take a look at these pictures. We make predictions every day. Take a look at this first picture of this boy and these candles. What do you think is happening there? It's probably his birthday. What do you think's going to happen next? Right, he's going to blow out those birthday candles. How about in this picture with the girl with the basketball? What do you think she's about to do? Right, she's probably about to throw up the ball and try and get it into the hoop. And these kids right here, what can you predict that they're doing? What's going to happen next? They're jumping in the water. They're going to go under the water. They're going to get wet. We make predictions every day. And today we're going to make predictions while we're reading Iris and Walter in the field trip. Now we've already read chapter 1. So we're going to start there and use what we already know to help us make our prediction. All right, so we're going to think back to what happened in chapter 1, the aquarium, to predict what is going to happen in chapter 2. So far we know that Iris and Walter are going to go on a field trip, and they decided to be bus buddies. Chapter 2 is called The Bus Ride. So let's use what we know to make our prediction. Remember, you can tell someone your prediction, you can write it down in a notebook, or you can post it on a Post-it. I predict what could happen in chapter 2, The Bus Ride. I predict that Iris and Walter are going to sit next to each other on the bus, and maybe they'll talk about things that they hope to see at the aquarium. Think about what your prediction is and predict what might happen next. On Friday morning, Miss Cherry said, "We are very lucky to have Jenny's mother come on the field trip with us today." Jenny gave her mother a big hug. "I know we are going to have a great time," said Miss Cherry. Now let's go over the rules. Remember, pay attention, hang on to your partner, stay with the group, and if you get lost, stay where you are, and I will find you, said Miss Cherry. "I've never been lost, have you?" Iris asked Lulu. "No, and I sure wouldn't want to be," said Lulu. "That would be scary," said Benny. "Really scary," said Walter. Think about everything we know. Let's see if we could make another prediction. I predict that one of these friends is going to get lost. Think about what we remember from our table of contents when we first took a sneak peek. Who could get lost? Let's hear your prediction. The children climbed aboard the school bus. Iris and Walter chose the very last seat. They bounced up and down. Benny told knock-knock jokes. Lulu made up silly fish songs. Everyone was happy and excited. Nobody thought anymore about getting lost. Chapter 3. What could happen here? This chapter is called Where's Walter? I predict, go ahead and make your prediction. I predict that Walter is going to get lost. I've used everything I already know about the book to make my prediction. Make your prediction. When the bus pulled up in front of the aquarium, Iris said, "Look at all the people." "Hey, Walter," said Benny, "that boy is wearing a shirt just like yours." "He is," said Walter. Take a look. That boy is wearing a shirt just like Walter's. Does that change your prediction a little? Can you use that information to make your prediction? Now, children, it's very crowded here, so keep your eyes on me, said Miss Cherry. The children walked down a dark hallway. Everywhere they looked, there were fish. Ooh, they whispered. Sharks, said Benny. They look mean, said Iris. While the children were looking at the sharks, Miss Cherry and Jenny's mother counted everyone. Okay, follow me, said Miss Cherry. They came to the coral reef. Wow, said Iris and Benny. Walter could not say a word. He watched the angelfish swim and shimmer, the hermit crabs scurry, and the seagrass sway. Walter had never seen anything as wonderful as the coral reef. Let's stop and predict what could happen next. He couldn't even say a word. He was so excited. I predict that Walter is going to keep looking at all of these really cool fish while the rest of the class keeps going. Are we going to see the penguins soon? Asked Iris. That's our next stop, said Miss Cherry. She counted everyone again. Off we go, said Miss Cherry. They walked past the starfish. They walked past the seahorses. Oh, look, there are the penguins, said Iris, taking Walter's hands. Don't you think they're cute, Walter? But Walter didn't answer. Why wouldn't Walter answer? Iris turned around. She saw a boy. You're not Walter, said Iris. I'm Nick, said the boy. Where's my class? He asked. Iris looked all around. There were crowds of children. She could not see Walter anywhere. There you are, Nick, shouted a woman. I've been looking all over for you. Nick grabbed his teacher's hand and held on tight. Iris ran to Miss Cherry. Miss Cherry, I can't find Walter, she said. Walter's lost, asked Jenny. I can't find him anywhere, said Iris. Okay, let's pause the video there before we read chapter 4 and predict what might happen next. Okay, so you've made your prediction. Let's see. Chapter 4, The Rescue. Don't worry, said Miss Cherry. I will find Walter. Now I want everyone to stay with Jenny's mother. Please let me come with you, said Iris. Miss Cherry looked at Iris's worried face. Come, Iris, you and I shall find Walter, said Miss Cherry. They walked past the starfish. They did not see Walter. They walked by the seahorses, but Walter was not there. Iris thought about Walter, lost and alone. Poor Walter, he must be really scared, she said. We will find him, said Miss Cherry. But there were so many people. How would they ever find Walter in the big crowd? Suddenly, Iris saw him. There he is! There's Walter, she cried. Walter was still standing in front of the coral reef, watching the fish swim around and around. Walter, we've been looking for you everywhere, said Iris. Huh? Said Walter. I was so worried, said Iris. Why? Asked Walter. Because you were lost, said Iris. I was? He asked. Walter didn't even know he was lost because he was so busy looking at the exhibit at the aquarium. Iris and Miss Cherry gave Walter a big hug. I'm very happy to see you, Walter, said Miss Cherry. And now I think it's a good time to have our picnic. Don't you? Outside, the sun was shining. Iris and Walter played tag with their friends. They sat under a tree and shared their lunches. Time to go, said Miss Cherry. When the bus pulled up in front of school, Grandpa was waiting. How was the field trip, he asked. It was fabulous, said Walter. We saw angelfish, And hermit crabs? And Walter got lost, said Iris. Oh no, said Grandpa. But I didn't know I was lost, said Walter. And I found him, said Iris. Then Iris and Walter told Grandpa the whole story all the way home. Okay, so we just finished Iris and Walter and the field trip, and we made predictions along the way. Today, your job as a reader is to predict what will happen next in the books that you're reading. However you're reading today, whether you're reading on Epic or Rise Kids or you're reading your books from home. And you can jot down your predictions on a Post-it note, in a notebook, or tell them to someone.